Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary, Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary. Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed.
Members, at the commencement of our sitting, let us be still. Please take your seats. Members, this sitting has been convened to fill the vacancies in the offices of the First Minister and Deputy First Minister. I will conduct the process in accordance with the procedure set out in Section 16B of the NI Act 1998 and Standing Order 44(1). I will therefore begin by asking the nominating officer of the DUP to nominate a member of the Assembly to be First Minister. I will then ask the nominating officer of Sinn Féin to nominate a member of the Assembly to be Deputy First Minister. As the persons nominated to fill the vacancy shall not take up office until each of them has affirmed the terms of the pledge of office contained in Schedule 4 to the NI Act 1998. When I have received the nominations, I will ask each of the persons nominated to accept the nomination and affirm the terms of the pledge of office. And before we proceed, members, I may find it helpful if we read the pledge of office into the record. And can I ask now the clerk to read the pledge of office?
The pledge of office is as follows. to pledge to discharge in good faith all the duties of the office, commitment to non-violence and exclusively peaceful and democratic means, to serve all the people of Northern Ireland equally, and to act in accordance with the general obligations on government to promote equality and prevent discrimination, to promote the interests of the whole community represented in the Northern Ireland Assembly towards the goal of a shared future, to participate fully in the Executive Committee, the North-South Ministerial Council and the British-Irish Council, to observe the joint nature of the offices of First Minister and Deputy First Minister, to uphold the rule of law based as it is on the fundamental principles of fairness, impartiality and democratic accountability, including support for policing and the courts as set out in paragraph 6 of the St Andrews Agreement, to support the rule of law unequivocally in word and deed, and to support all efforts to uphold it, to work collectively with other members of the Executive Committee to achieve a society free of paramilitarism, to challenge all paramilitary activity and associated criminality, to call for and work together with the other members of the Executive Committee to achieve the disbandment of all paramilitary organisations and their structures, to challenge paramilitary attempts to control communities, to support those who are determined to make the transition away from paramilitarism, to accept no authority, direction or control on any political activities other than my democratic mandate, alongside my own personal and party judgment, to participate with colleagues in the preparation of a programme for government, to operate within the framework of that programme when agreed with the Executive Committee and endorsed by the Assembly, to support and act in accordance with all decisions of the Executive Committee and Assembly, to comply with the Ministerial Code of Conduct. Paragraph 6 of the St Andrews Agreement says, "We believe that the essential elements of support for law and order include endorsing fully the Police Service of Northern Ireland and the criminal justice system, actively encouraging everyone in the community to cooperate fully with the PSNI in tackling crime in all areas and actively supporting all the policing and criminal justice institutions, including the Policing Board."
Members, the pledge of office has now been read into the record of proceedings, and I will proceed with the nominating process. I call Mr Edwin Poots to nominate a member of the Assembly to be the First Minister, and I will allow him up to 3 minutes to say a few words in support of the nomination if he so chooses to do so.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Just over 20 years ago, a schoolboy came into my office to find out more about politics. He was different from others that came in terms of his eagerness and hunger to actually get involved in politics. And over the years, I mentored him, brought him into Lisburn City Council at the age of 23, and into this Assembly in 2010 at the age of 28. And over those years, I've watched that young man mature from the schoolboy to the politician that he is today. I'm proud to nominate today, not with a precondition from Sinn Féin, but with a brand of confident unionism, capable of recognising wins and even recognising those things that do not do us demonstrable harm. Paul was in the new generation whenever he entered this Assembly, and we need more young people like him to come through and win for unionism. Young people who are confident in what they do, in what they say, and ensuring that we actually achieve things and not just carp from the sidelines. And with Paul in the leadership of the First Minister's office, I believe we will win for unionism, but not just unionism. We'll win for everyone, because we will make this place that we call home, Northern Ireland, a better place, and a better place for everyone. So I stand today privileged to propose Paul Given, MLA, for the role of First Minister of Northern Ireland. Thank you, Mr Speaker.
Thank you. And Paul Givan, are you willing to take up the office of First Minister and affirm the terms of the pledge of office?
I am.
Thank you. I have received a letter from the nominating officer of Sinn Féin advising me that Mr Conor Murphy is serving as their nominating officer. I call Mr Conor Murphy to nominate a member of the Assembly to be the Deputy First Minister. Mr Murphy.
I am delighted to nominate Las Uachtaráin Sinn Féin, Michelle O'Neill, MLA, to the position of Deputy First Minister. Michelle has jointly led these institutions through the most difficult times as she charted our way through the biggest public health crisis we have faced in living memory. She led at all times with good grace and determination to do what is right for all of our people, no matter what their background. As the former Health Minister, she is extremely aware of and passionate about addressing the waiting list crisis within our health and social care system. Michelle set in motion much-needed reform, and I have no doubt that she will now drive this work through the Executive. Of course, this Executive will face many challenges in the time ahead. The legacy of Brexit is still being played out. COVID-19 has not yet been defeated, although we can take heart that we are on the road to recovery. And as Finance Minister, I can also testify to the impact of austerity and cuts to the block grant on our ability to maintain first-class public services. However, Concordia Michelle O'Neill has shown herself time and time again to be a strong and dedicated and undaunted leader. I have no doubt she will face each and every one of these challenges head-on and deliver progressive, positive change for all of our people. So I am very pleased to nominate Michelle O'Neill, MLA, to the position of Deputy First Minister.
Thank you. Mrs O'Neill, Michelle O'Neill, are you willing to take up the office of Deputy First Minister and affirm the terms of the pledge of office?
I am.
Members, the offices have been filled, and I congratulate the First Minister and the Deputy First Minister on their appointments. There will now be an opportunity for speeches. I will begin by calling the First Minister and then the Deputy First Minister to address the Assembly. And I call the First Minister, Paul Givan.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To keep the record right, I believe I should have read into the record the pledge, and maybe I've led the Deputy First Minister astray already in how she followed me in that respect. But for the record, I can confirm that I am willing to take up the office of First Minister, and I affirm the terms of the pledge of office as set out in Schedule 4 to the Northern Ireland Act of 1998. I trust that satisfies the record. First of all, Mr Speaker, can I thank Edwin first and foremost for his confidence in me. 25 years ago, our paths crossed. I was 16 at the time. I was at the point of the Belfast Agreement, and I got politically active at that stage. But Edwin's not just a colleague. Edwin is a close personal friend of mine. Edwin's a leader who has a big heart for the people around him. He wants them to do well. He wants people to succeed. And he loves this country. And I pay tribute to him and look forward to his leadership in the time ahead. Little did I know at 23, when I became the then youngest councillor to be elected to Lisburn City Council, that I would end up at this stage today as the First Minister of Northern Ireland. It was at that same age that I got married, and my wife said to me, "Only a councillor. You'll never be allowed to be anything else. You only can be a councillor, and I want you to get a real job." Here I am now, taking on this job. I want to thank Emma and my family for their support throughout my career. I know it will be now more than challenging for them in the time ahead. I want to pay tribute to those that I'm following. First of all, Dr Paisley founded the DUP. Without him, there never would have been a Democratic Unionist Party today. My grandfather founded the party with him, with his two brothers. They were South Tyrone people. They were farmers. And they ploughed a difficult field for the DUP back then. It wasn't the establishment. Many looked down upon them. But it's because of that generation that my generation are able to serve this party in political office. And I want to pay my thanks to Dr Paisley and those that went before, to Peter Robinson and his unrivalled strategic ability and how he led the Democratic Unionist Party, to Arlene Foster for her energy and her commitment to make devolution work, recognising difficult choices needed to be made. but devoted to making this place work. They all had their own way of leading, and I'll have mine. Mistakes I'm sure I will make. I'm not infallible. But I share the same drive and determination to serve the people of Northern Ireland. There is much goodwill from the public for this place to work, and for our politics to work for everybody. We must all recognise that there is much more that we have in common than separates us. Northern Ireland is a special place. It's special because of its people. We have different identities. We need to respect those identities. That difference shouldn't be seen as a threat. It should be seen as a strength. We have a rich tapestry that makes up who we are, what we are, the society that we belong to. So there is much work to do, Mr. Speaker, as we emerge from COVID-19, rebuilding our public services and supporting our economic recovery. I know the challenge is great. The responsibility will be heavy. I have never shied away from taking on responsibility when asked to do so. Let's get to work, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbon. And I now call on the Deputy First Minister. And before Michelle Neal will speak, could I remind members, those who wish to speak, need to indicate their names, please, to the table. And I now call on Michelle Neal, the Deputy First Minister.
Garmega Can Corlia, August Tommy and Sasta and Rolshaw Aglaku. I confirm that I am willing to take up the pledge of office of Deputy First Minister, and I affirm the pledge of office set out in the 1998 Act. I wish to thank members of the Assembly for this special sitting today and for to allow the process of nomination of First Minister and Deputy First Minister to proceed. I want to wish those ministers who have vacated their posts in the past week well for the future, and thank them for their efforts over the past 17 months since the political institutions were restored, as they and the Executive responded to the COVID-19 pandemic in protecting lives and livelihoods. I want to welcome those MLAs who have since taken up ministerial office in the past week in the Departments of the Economy and Education, and also to the Junior Minister within the Executive Office. Our top priority as an Executive is our response to COVID-19, ensuring the continued successful rollout of our vaccination programme right across the population, and also rebuilding our economy to sustain jobs and people's livelihoods. The 5 executive parties have shown that over this very challenging period, that when there is unity of purpose, we can tackle the biggest of challenges and get our society through. But we also have monumental challenges ahead, which will require that same unity of purpose, the same urgency, as we tackle the totally unacceptable hospital waiting lists, which have left people crucified, in pain and without hope. We must immediately set about addressing these issues together. We must mount a case together to secure the funding from the British Government to rebuild and transform our incredible public health service. Our people and the heroic health service workers we are blessed with deserve nothing less indeed. Our economy, workers and sectors have all faced the double whammy in recent times, with the impact of the uncertainty created by Brexit, but also the unexpected onset of COVID. So recovery is now key. Each of the 5 parties within the Executive all have distinct identities and different outlooks and policies. There are parties of the right, centre and left in coalition government, which is undoubtedly challenging to steer. We do not and will not always agree, but we're adults and we can get around the Executive table. We can give our perspectives, we can voice our views and take decisions collectively in the best interests of the people that we are elected to serve. People want mature political leaders who will get things done. In taking the pledge of office, I am fully committed in the interest of the whole community and to working within the Executive Office with Mr Girvan as First and Deputy First Ministers and joint heads of government. Our mission is to deliver on public services on health, education, jobs and the economy. We will not share common ground on the issue of Brexit, in which a majority of MLAs in this Assembly rejected and a majority of citizens democratically voted to oppose. The protocol is a consequence of Brexit, which was championed by the Tories and the DUP. Its very purpose is to limit the impact of Brexit on the island of Ireland, to protect the Good Friday Agreement, the all-Ireland economy and avoids a hard border north to south. With access to both British and EU single markets, our agriculture, our retail, manufacturing sectors are ready to grasp the benefits of this market access and to fill the gaps in the supply chain, creating jobs and strengthening our economy. And on the issue of rights, we have seen the DUP resist these. I don't expect that to change. I will work with the other parties in this Assembly and the Executive towards achieving a progressive social reform agenda for women, children, Irish language speakers and newcomer communities. There is a requirement under the Good Friday Agreement for equivalent standards of protection of rights on the island, north and south. And the governments, both governments as co-guarantors of that agreement, have a responsibility to act whenever this Assembly cannot. The entire cultural package agreed in New Decade, New Approach symbolises respect for diversity, tolerance and mutual respect for each other's identity and each other's culture. I respect those of a British tradition and a unionist tradition within this House and within our wider community. I have tried to demonstrate that in my role as Deputy First Minister over the past 17 months. Language is fundamental to nationality. Agus mar sin bheith ach gillig agin. The official recognition of the Irish language in this state, the repeal of draconian laws preventing Irish in the courts, and the appointment of a commissioner represents party of esteem. Taxpayers who use Irish in their everyday lives, including those who educate their children through Irish medium education, who wish to access public services through Irish, should do so. And as a public administration, that is a service, it is not a special privilege. Yet only 2 days ago in this chamber, the DUP voted against a translation service that was explicitly agreed in the New Decade, New Approach political agreement. That represented bad faith and a lack of leadership, and it really isn't acceptable. But as a society, we're only going forward. We are certainly not going backwards, and the process of change will not be stopped by anyone, including the DUP. So to conclude, Can Corlia, New Decade, New Approach provided the basis to restore all of the political institutions of the Good Friday Agreement. It set out 80 commitments which need delivered by us all and without delay, including tackling health waiting lists, supports around the mental health of our young people, educational underachievement, the expansion of McGee University, the delivery of Casement Park, the A5 major road project, increasing police numbers and much, much more. The success of one depends on the success of others, including this Assembly, its Executive, the British Irish Council, the North-South Ministerial Council and the operation of cross-border bodies. I had the opportunity to host the British Irish Council last Friday in Fermanagh, where 8 administrations from across these islands participated, joining hands of solidarity in our fight back against the deadly virus, which has sadly taken the lives of so many of our people and brought tremendous hardship on every family during this time also. The Executive will meet after this sitting to discuss COVID-19 and the current situation, and we will get briefed from the Health Minister on the Delta variant and any implications on our current restrictions in place to protect public health. And tomorrow, both myself and the First Minister will host the plenary meeting of the North-South Ministerial Council in Armagh. We have prevented a political vacuum this week, and we cannot stand still for 1 second because the stakes are so high, and the public depend on those of us elected to this democratic assembly to get on with the job, and that, Can Corlia, is what I intend to do. Gur míle maith agah.
And thank you, and I call Nicola Mallon.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and co-carges to the Joint First Ministers on their nominations today. The SDLP welcomes that this crisis appears to have been averted, but the people of Northern Ireland should never have been brought back to the point of crisis yet again. 5 parties, the British Government and the Irish Government, all signed up to New Decade, New Approach. All of us made promises to the people of Northern Ireland, and all of those promises must be honoured. No party has the right to pick and choose which commitment will be or will not be honoured. Neither is it good or responsible devolved government to run to the British Government every time the DUP and Sinn Féin fail to implement what has previously been agreed. The SDLP entered the Executive on the basis of New Decade, New Approach. We entered it in good faith, and we remain committed to the delivery of all of the commitments that were made. While there may be a sense of relief today that we haven't been pushed over the cliff and into the hands of Boris Johnson and Matt Hancock, the truth is that the British Government does not have a good track record when it comes to delivering on the promises it makes. We only have to look at the protocol. But the SDLP in Westminster will hold the British Government's feet to the fire to ensure that it delivers on the Irish language and it delivers for those who care and respect all of our cultures. As this political drama comes to an end for the time being, the message from people in Northern Ireland is clear. Cut the drama and start delivering. Get on with the job of making people's lives better, not worse. That means getting the 335,000 patients who are living in pain off our hospital waiting lists. That means getting the hundreds of children who are waiting for school places the education they deserve. That means dealing with the housing crisis, the COVID crisis, the Brexit crisis and the climate crisis. We don't need any more DUP Sinn Féin manufactured crises to add to our list. The SDLP, of course, has many questions about the exclusive negotiation between the DUP, Sinn Féin and the British Government. Was there any negotiations on funding to tackle the crisis in our waiting lists? Was there any negotiations on the housing crisis? Was there any negotiations on the anti-poverty strategy? Was there any negotiations on free and affordable childcare for working parents? All commitments in NDNA, and we will be seeking answers. But to conclude, Mr Speaker, the SDLP remains committed to good governance. We remain committed to putting people before party, and we remain committed to improving the lives of everyone in Northern Ireland.
Thank you. I call Mr Doug Beattie.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I feel like I should have written something down for this extraordinary day, but I don't want to work for the extraordinary day. I want to work for the everyday. And that means tackling those waiting lists that we keep mentioning, 335,000 people who feel abandoned by what we have let them down with our actions, those people who are coming off furlough, those people who are on waiting list for housing, those people who can't get housing, those people who can't afford housing, those people where there's no housing available, and clearly those people who are concerned about the education of their children and the state of our education system. That's what we need to be working on. All of us need to be working on. 90 MLAs united in working in regards to that. So I no longer want to see identity politics being the thing that drives us here in this chamber. I don't want to see ransom politics being the thing that holds us to account. What I want to see is collaborative politics where we all see the problem in front of us and we all work to try and find a solution to it. We all want our people to wake up in the morning with a sense of purpose. We all want our people to go to bed at night with a sense of fulfilment. And that's what we all need to do by working together and have our disagreements if we want to have our disagreements. But at the end of the day, let's set our sights on a target, and that is to make Northern Ireland a good place to live, where people want to work, where people want to get educated, where people want to bring up their children, and a place that they want to call their home and not just leave it at the earliest of opportunities. So I congratulate Paul for becoming the First Minister. I congratulate Michelle for continuing as the Deputy First Minister. Of course, the Ulster Unionist Party and myself will be working with you, as we will work with every minister, as I will work with every political party, large, small, independents, to make sure that we could do something that is right for Northern Ireland. I'll work with every MLA. But we do have to set our focus on the people of Northern Ireland and making this a better place for them. And I'm not going to get into sticking my boot into anybody across this chamber in relation to where we are now today and how we got here, because it just won't help. But what will help is getting this done today and getting on with our business, what we're paid for, that the people expect us to do. That's what's key. And I hope we can all unite in trying to do exactly that. Thank you, Mr Speaker.
Thank you. I call Mrs Naomi Long.
Thank you, Mr Principal Deputy Speaker. And I rise today to welcome the appointment of our new First Minister and the reappointment of our not-so-new Deputy First Minister, and warm congratulations to you both. I want to wish you both well over the coming crucial months as you take on responsibility of jointly leading the Executive and our community through the ongoing pandemic, the first stages of recovery and the last stages of this mandate. There is much work for us all to do, and I, for one, will be glad to get back to focusing on that rather than on the drama of recent weeks. I also very much welcome their positive words today and their commitments. I'm sure that neither Minister either wants or needs my advice, Mr Principal Deputy Speaker, but in keeping with the habit of a lifetime, I'm going to give it to them anyway. I think we can all agree over the last few weeks it's been an unedifying experience. And the late-night agreement, which has got us to this point today, whilst welcome, in that it allows devolution to continue to be sustained, ought never to have been necessary. The matters in dispute were settled in the NDNA agreement. We took up our posts in government knowing our role was to deliver, not unpick that agreement, which our party signed up to. Relying on the UK Government to deliver not only the cultural package that was agreed in NDNA, but also these very institutions, yet again from the brink of collapse, is a failure which diminishes public respect, what little of that remains, for devolution and for local politics. That time has been squandered over the last few days as departmental, assembly officials, ministers, MLAs and lots of other people outside of this building prepared for failure. That's time stolen from the people we represent and we were elected to serve. Those outside this chamber were worried about when they might see a hospital appointment for a diagnosis. There were parents in distress watching as their children were made to feel worthless by our fundamentally flawed transfer system. Others lay awake at night desperate for some reassurance that they would have a job to return to when furlough ends. And it must have seemed like the height of indulgence that they watched MLAs who are well paid threatening to bring down the very institutions that could deliver them respite. I had a stark realisation in the early hours of this morning. In the time that I have been an MLA, since my election in 2003 to date, I have endured more time in talks and negotiations to restore these institutions than I have enjoyed being able to walk through those double doors and do the job I was elected to do. That has to change. That has to change. We have to wean our politics off this toxic cycle of drama. So my advice, for what it is worth, Mr Principal Deputy Speaker, is simply this. The public are weary. They need and deserve leadership and hope. I will work with both the First and Deputy First Minister in good faith to deliver it. We have a chance to deliver real change. Let's grasp it together.
Thank you. I call Ms Claire Bailey.
Thank you, Principal Deputy Speaker. And the nomination of a First and Deputy First Minister today is welcome. But of course we should not be here again. Continually taking people to the brink and back is just ridiculous. It's manipulative and it's just simply wrong. How many more five-party political agreements will be made, rolled back on, stalled, not followed through, and then manufactured into a crisis before calling an election? 23 years ago, the Belfast Good Friday Agreement was put to the people for ratification, and it was given overwhelming endorsement, yet remains largely undelivered. And while it wasn't perfect, it was right. And since then, political crisis has brought us many political agreements. We've had St Andrews, Has O'Sullivan, Eames Bradley, Stormont House, In and Out Ministers, Fresh Start, False Start, New Decade, New Approach, all without People's Agreement, and all remain undelivered. So this five-party executive has a long track record of manufacturing political crises rather than tackling the long-standing, ever-growing list of multiple crises that people are living through. The housing crisis, the climate crisis, the waiting list crisis, the mental health crisis, just to name a few. We need to see delivery, whether that be on abortion rights, an independent environment protection agency, a childcare strategy, enhanced provision for integrated education, take your pick. But so much needs done. And let's not forget that it was Westminster MPs who approved our new abortion regulations just a year ago, and look how that's worked out. Women here still denied access to services. 371 women forced to travel to England during a pandemic in order to access healthcare denied. So no one is being fooled that this overnight political agreement on how to deliver an Irish Language Act will bring any stability at all. I also question if it will even bring an agreeable act at all, particularly when we look at who it's coming from, if it's to come from a Tory government, a government whose track record is of lies, spin and non-delivery, is yet another well-worn track. So I send my congratulations to the new executive team, but be in no doubt at all that all eyes are upon you, and people are in crisis, and people will be watching your every move. I wish you luck.
Mr. Jim Allister.
Mr. Principal Deputy Speaker, today is a day of victory for ransom politics. It is a day of indisputable victory for Sinn Féin. It is a day of shame and humiliation for the DUP, added to by the fact that the nomination made today was in defiance of a vote of the DUP Assembly Group, where as many as 24 of those gathered voted against, rolling over and proceeding. But doing Sinn Féin's bidding mattered more to the DUP leader. In recent days, the DUP leader has been spoken to like a small boy by Sinn Féin, told what he can do, what he can't do, and when he can do it. And today, he spinelessly rolled over, having paid the ransom, having paid the Dane geld. Mr. Putz, I say to you, power bought by paying the Sinn Féin ransom is power not worth having. As Kipling said of the folly of paying the Dane geld, for the end of that game is oppression and shame, and the nation that plays it is lost. How true. And to the new beholden First Minister, Mr. Given, I say we've given more than we've left to give. Far too much. Unionism has been stretched beyond giving point. And by living up to your name, Mr. Given, you will ensure that this Putz O'Neill government will go down in history as the P. O'Neill government. What a pitiful, hopeless place unionism has been brought to by the Putto brothers of Putz and Given.
Mr. Jerry Carroll.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Time after time, from equal marriage to abortion and now the Irish language, the DUP have played a disgraceful role in blocking, delaying and rolling back on people's rights. When Gaelgory, or women for that matter, have to rely on the rotten Tories to give them basic rights, it speaks volumes about the levels of dysfunction and dead-end politics that leaves the stormont institutions utterly incapable of delivering any kind of progressive or real change. Frankly, I don't trust the Tories. Most people don't. I don't think they give a damn about Irish language rights or Irish language speakers or anybody here. The only reason they are willing to step in is the same reason the parties in the executive are willing to accept their intervention, is because of activists continuing to campaign and demanding that those who support them stand their ground. Once again, this campaign has defined the fault lines of this executive, and the buck has had to be passed to the Tories to keep these institutions afloat at all costs, and because the Tories are facing their own crises on multiple fronts. Let's not forget, Deputy Speaker, these are the same institutions which presided over a disastrous COVID policy and lives tragically lost, the same institutions which saw Black Lives Matter activists targeted, which have utterly failed to deliver on commitments to workers in NDNA, and which have witnessed the spike in poverty and deprivation levels right across our communities by unleashing welfare reforms, maintaining bottom wages and paying more heed to paramilitary demands and demands from trade unions. The only time this executive has ever deviated from this miserable record is when workers or people power campaigns have put it up to them. That's how health workers got their pay raise. That's how women forced the issue of abortion onto the agenda front and centre when no big party stood by them. And that's how Irish language campaigners have shaken up the cosy politics on the Hill once again. They have persisted despite being ignored and opposed. And it's clear to us that the only way to bring about progressive, real change is through more and relentless people power campaigns. Finally, I want to stress that we should never trust the Tories with rights. Recent history shows that. The responsibility still lies with Stormont, and those who breathe a sigh of relief that the buck has been passed shouldn't be allowed to get comfortable until these rights are finally over the line.
Thank you. If I could just say to the member, I appreciate the passion with which he expresses his views, but I'm not quite certain that it's parliamentary to refer to people as not giving a damn. But I'm sure it'll not trouble his conscience too much, I'm certain. Ms Claire Sugden.
Thank you, Principal Deputy Speaker. I rise to offer my congratulations to Mr Given as the new First Minister and to Ms O'Neill in her reappointment as Deputy First Minister. That said, this is an exhausted mandate, Principal Deputy Speaker. The biggest mistake in January 2020 was not having an election. The biggest mistake was restoring government 3 years into a mandate with no opportunity to provide good governance on the ground for the people of Northern Ireland. So did we really not expect the instability that we have seen over the past number of years, restored at the end of 3 shameful years of nothing, which has contributed to our waiting lists? 5 competing parties in government who will be competing for votes in an election less than a year away. 2-year mandate. A de facto programme for government, a new decade, new approach, which was not about people but was about politics. Mr Principal Deputy Speaker, this mandate is exhausted. The people of Northern Ireland are tired. They're tired of this charade. I made my way to Stormont this morning and I deliberately looked around and I looked at the people of Northern Ireland. And it was a bright sunny day and people were getting on with their lives, perhaps not even paying attention of what's happening in this place. And I think that's an important point to make, because the confidence in these institutions is how we need to build that back. And the behaviour of the last week, what was it all about? It just feels like drama. It feels like every political party was speaking to voters rather than doing the job that they have a responsibility to fulfil. Mr Principal Deputy Speaker, I would call for an election at this point if it was not for legislation that's in passage, the only opportunity to actually do our jobs, if we weren't coming at the end of a pandemic. There are priorities. There are health waiting lists, policing, reform of these institutions, which I think is quite key to avoiding this type of behaviour in the future, welfare mitigation, soft opt-in of organ donation, the justice bill that's coming through, Brexit, education, Mr Principal Deputy Speaker. If it means that we can draw a line, I think parties need to really figure out what they want to do next, because the people of Northern Ireland are tired. They want to see this place work. They don't want direct rule from Westminster, because the outcomes, if that were to happen, are ones that the same people advocating for that would disagree with as well. Mr Principal Deputy Speaker, we all have a mandate to work for the people of Northern Ireland, and I think everybody in a position of responsibility needs to realise that and needs to get down to doing that, because this next year will be very difficult, not for any one of us, but for everyone out there.
Thank you. The final speaker I have is Ms Paula Bradshaw.
Thank you, Mr Principal Deputy Speaker. I rise to wish Mr Given well in this new and challenging role. The people of this country are counting on him to work well with Ms O'Neill in her role as Deputy First Minister, and I would also like to place on record my good wishes to her as she moves forward. They both need to work collaboratively with the other executive colleagues as we continue to emerge from the pandemic and towards the end of this Assembly mandate. Mr Speaker, there are a number of very important health bills that require urgent sign-off from the Executive and progress on them, namely the Adoption and Children's Bill and the Organ and Human Tissue Donation Bill, and I would also mention the Miscellaneous Provisions Bill in Justice and the Sign Language Act in Communities, and very much concur with Ms Mallon's reference to the long list of outstanding strategies and policy changes, not least those included in the New Decade New Approach deal. Few of these will get newspaper headlines, Mr Principal Deputy Speaker, but their contents are so important to those people that we represent and who are eagerly awaiting this policy and legislative change. It was my great privilege to represent the Alliance Party on the Language and Culture Working Groups set up on 2 occasions during the talks when this Assembly was not functioning, so I fully appreciate the significance of the contents of this tripartite cultural package, how important they are to so many across society, and it is my sincere hope that the recommendations of the report from the Commission of Flags, Identity, Culture and Tradition dovetail neatly into the outworkings of this package. The issues considered by FICT are of equal importance to the growing centre ground in Northern Ireland, who want to see workable and robust solutions put in place in their neighbourhoods before we have any more so-called hot summers here. And their aspirations for the future for themselves and their children are of equal importance and should be respected equally. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Bradshaw. Item number 3 on the order paper is the adjournment. The question is that the Assembly do now adjourn. The Assembly is adjourned.
This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Plenary Programme signed.